to go through this insiders panel. Ben, over to you, buddy.
Thanks. So it's a pretty short time, so I think so you heard from Duncan. Maybe Duncan, you want to say a few words about HAX, more what we do in Shenzhen, briefly, and I'll move on to the next guys.
Yeah. So I didn't talk much about us, right? So basically, we run a program with first institutional money into companies. We invest between 175 to 250K, and then we do one with investments. We take companies from a prototypy stage to a point at which they can basically access manufacturers and then access VCs in Silicon Valley. So we have a two-stage program, one in Shenzhen, one in San Francisco.
Okay. Hey, tell us about Brinc.
So quite similar. We do up to 100,000 per team. A couple years younger than the guys at HAX. So 43 investments, but now speaking up to about 40 a year. So we'll be about 120-ish by end of next year. We also add on additional services for manufacturing. So anyone can work with us to help them actually do the manufacturing. So not just get the launch out there, but manufacture. We also help growth, PO financing, and we've sort of taken an Eastern to Western approach. So we don't have any US presence, but we have offices in Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Barcelona, Bahrain, Tel Aviv, and now Poland. So we've really taken the Eastern side of the world. So the graph would be actually rest of the world would be the vast majority of our investments. But we're very much excited about the same exact vision that connecting the world is going to fundamentally change everything.
Excellent. Henry, Q Ventures.
So we are a early stage VC fund. We only invest in hardware and the underlying enabling technology. So we're talking about microprocessor, battery, sensor technology. On top of that, we also run a product development studio. Team members in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Silicon Valley. So have a lot of our portfolio goes to the engineering, the prototyping, and mass production in China.
I think kind of one common thread here is that everybody's pretty hands-on compared to traditional investors. Maybe that's kind of nature of the beast with hardware. So when teams come to you, when startups come to you, maybe starting with you, Henry, like what typically do they have or what do they lack?
If we look at a bulk of our portfolio is actually what we call enabling technology, right? So oftentimes these are PhD, having done their research for almost 10 years. They really know their tech, but then to turn from the underlying core technology to a product actually requires a lot more steps. So what I have here, portfolio. So this is a smartwatch. This is completely powered by your own body heat. Right? So you never have to charge it. So you put it on, pretty warm. Yeah. Put it on. As soon as you don't die, the watch will not die. So if you look at them, this Caltech PhD have done research for almost 10 years, right? So when they first came to us, they said, look, this technology, in the long run, will be great for industrial usage, right? But the first product I want to showcase my technology is a watch, right? Because everybody complain about their wearable. Everybody complain that you need to charge it, every day or every 5 days. So we want to make a statement saying that for this, you don't never have to charge it. So we help them turn this into a prototype so that they can launch in CES, and now they're shipping. Right? So I think that's actually what we feel a lot of the underlying core technology company they lack. They just don't have the EE, the mechanical engineering, but they are really good at what they do in core technology.
So at Brinc, you guys have a pretty good reputation on being very strong on the marketing side. Is that something that's typically lacking for startups in the hardware space, or maybe more in general? Or any other aspect you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, I think consistently we find that a lot of startups underestimate the majority of it. Pretty much all of it. And I mean, you might find great engineers, which we have PhDs and partnerships at Gore and all these other really deep tech companies, but every one of these groups fundamentally underestimates something that's critical. And usually it's time. They always are too aggressive on time. So the promises are usually always too short. And then I think money's getting not easier, but I think people understand that it's costly. I think 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people really underestimated the cost. But I actually look at it more from the reverse of distribution, and I say, look, what's it going to take to be successful in distribution? Because every assumption has to start from there. Because ideas are great, but tech doesn't make a business. And actually, funny, you look at our teams, the majority of our teams that do the best are business founders. So our business founders usually trump our engineering founders every time. And I usually think that's because building a physical business is an old economy job.
So, build it and they will come doesn't apply, do you think?
Never has, never will.
Duncan, what do you think? So HAX has developed over the years the capabilities to support in prototyping, production, launch, marketing, and what are the latest skill sets that HAX is working on to provide to founders?
Are you referring to your own skill sets?
Yeah,
so really. But
the past like 18 months have been the hottest topics.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing for us has been an emphasis on B2B investments. And so typically when we meet a B2B company, they've got an incredible insight into whatever they're doing. Like normally they've worked in the industry for 10 years, and so they know exactly the customer, they know exactly the product. And most of them are kind of software engineers or electrical engineers, and they need some help with the hardware. So really what we have in Shenzhen, what we've tried to do is just create this kind of like describe it as like Groupon buying for engineering resources. Like I've been a hardware founder myself. I know how difficult it is to do a really revolutionary piece of hardware. You need skills in like machine learning. You need skills in computer vision normally if you're doing anything with robotics. You need skills in structural engineering, mechanical design, industrial design, filmmaking, editing, graphic design, branding. Normally you end up getting a load of money from an investor and then spending it on consultants. What we try and do is just get all of those things. We've got 25 full-time staff, like deep skills in each of those areas, and then just plug and play them into the teams as and when they need it.
So maybe let's talk a bit about like your latest investment topics or thesis. Like these days everybody's talking about AI, everybody's talking about machine learning. Is that a big topic for you guys, or what are you more like areas of interest in terms of investment? Henry?
We still go back a lot to the fundamental science and technology. One of the latest
kind of deep tech.
That's right. Okay. So one of the later one that we're looking at, for example, is electronic nodes, right? It's in PhD Berkeley. So they try to extract the protein structure of virus that they cultivate in a bacteria, the E. coli bacteria, and use that as a receptor to detect any gas chemical in the air. So if you think about it, the immediate use case would be in the oil and gas industry, a lot of gas leakage problem. Right? To actually detect the exact level of venting is actually not that easy. But over time, if you think about it, it is actually an electronic node because the underlying structure can be trained up to detect anything. Right? So it could apply to healthcare, it could apply to food safety, food processing, pollution detection. So that's actually what we like a lot. We do that, of course, you need the business founder to turn it into a business, but we also try to look for technology that the underlying science could be applied across a different vertical.
That's pretty deep tech. So on for Brinc and for HAX, I think we're more focused on products. So what kind of areas are more of interest to you?
Yeah, so similar. We started out more in consumer. We're about 50-50 now. Some of the trends that we still see are the ones that I think really feel human. So we say, how we feel. So medical health wellness is our number one category. And the next one would be how we move. We have a ton of investments. We have a dedicated drones and robotics accelerator because we think everything around the Z-axis is going to be quite critical. And then probably the newest that gets me the most excited is ag tech, so what we eat. So it's one of our biggest categories, and specifically when you look at the rest of the world or Southeast Asia, we have massive challenges there. They're super critical in the Middle East, where we have 2 offices. So I think, in the developing world, it's so important, obviously. But usually I don't see people running around San Francisco worrying about where their water's coming from next, even though they should be. So I think overall, that's sort of like where our heart's at. We still invest in a way that we think, hey, these problems matter. These don't need to exist, and we think that we help founders actually solve them.
So, Duncan, you already presented a lot of HAX cases and companies, so I'd like you to tell us a bit more about more China-specific. What kind of skill sets and what kind of companies do you see emerging from China? Because I think that's kind of main theme today.
Yeah, that's been a fantastic one for us. Like just seeing all these Chinese entrepreneurs coming to us who are not necessarily like deep tech. What they are is they're system integrators. And that's actually normally the business solution there. So these guys are just so quick at integrating. They understand how to leverage Schengen ecosystem. They can take a new technology and then integrate it into robotics or whatever they're doing, their medical device, with incredible speed, and then get to market first with an interesting proposition. And I think that's really what we're looking for with a lot of those Chinese startups. Like they're just the ability to listen, willingness to listen, and then incredible speed. And there's just no way a Western startup honestly can compete with it. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Maybe it might be surprising for people to think that Chinese startups who speak Chinese or maybe supposedly know everything about China would come to kind of a foreign company in Shenzhen. So what do they come to learn there?
Yeah, I think it's weird actually, but like I think they basically look at us as like, okay, this is a global company. They see me, like they come to the office, half of our staff are Chinese, half are Western. And I guess they kind of feel, in fact I know they feel like, this is going to help me become a global company. I don't want to be a Chinese company, I want to be a global company from China. And that's the value proposition there.
So let's talk about so Shenzhen and the leverage of the ecosystem. So is that something like everybody agrees, like works with, like for all the companies?
Have to.
Do you have any exceptions?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's actually a lot more out of Shenzhen. I think Duncan and Guangzhou are playing a much larger role than they did.
Okay. Yeah. So let's kind of the broader area, the greater Bay Area. And so, like, are there specialties according to the location, like Guangzhou, Shenzhen?
Yeah, just look up the Lian Fund map, right? Like that's been out for a decade. It really hasn't changed dramatically, but I think the new focuses or these clustering, which we're trying to great at. Like I think we're going to see more of that. And I love that about China. I think that's the best is when they focus with grants, they focus with the universities and education systems going, hey, we're going to be great in this area. So I think we're going to see an increase in that, not a slowdown.
So I'd like to take a few more specific examples because people generally have this idea that hardware is hard, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time. But I know from HAX that we have some cases of companies that actually managed to get to market. There's very few people, very little money. So I'd like to look at kind of outlying examples to show like how much power you can get from the Shenzhen ecosystem of getting the right support. So maybe I'll start with Duncan and then I'll go through some more examples.
It's kind of crazy. And like, I don't actually know if it's really a good thing, to be honest, but like we had a company came called Aroma Coffee Machine, and they managed to, we gave them 100K at the time, and they managed to basically ship $2 million worth of coffee machines on 100K.
They haven't raised any additional funding?
No additional funding.
So they did a bit of a Kickstarter, right?
They did like a hobby Kickstarter, like $200,000 Kickstarter or something. It was nothing compared to what other companies have done. But yeah, they
how many people?
Two and a half. 2.5. Yeah, 2.5 people in the founding team. Yeah, and
Experienced people?
20 years old. 20 and 21 years old.
But just so we understand, so they make a coffee machine.
They make a coffee machine that basically learns your taste preference. So it's got a bunch of sensing technology inside it. It gives you like a flight of coffee each time you put a new bean in there. And then you try different ones. Okay, that's the one I like, and then it separates that out, and then kind of tests the strength that you like. And then basically, just constantly serves the perfect cup of coffee for the person that's operating it.
Ben, any outlying examples of something that surprised you?
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to talk to Florian from Summer, probably a great example. $2 million, no big institutions involved, but new founders. Ship 50,000 or 60,000 pieces now, making shit tons of cash, massive user adoption, crazy numbers. And I think that we're seeing more and more of this. And I think, not to be super hyperbolic, although that's my nature, is I really think that this idea that you need to have massive institutional investment, that you need to raise a shit ton of capital for hardware is just bullshit. And I think that when you're going super deep, that's their thesis, right? When you're investing in 10-year horizons, that's a completely different agreement with a founder that's saying, hey, we need $250,000 or 100,000, and like we need to make stuff. Like you need to get to a customer, you need to do something, you need to build a company in the short term, not in 10 years from now. So I love these stories. Like I love the ones you saw, like bootstrapped in 22 countries. Like I actually think we need more of those stories because we know anyone that's in this game knows that there is not enough capital around for all hardware companies that can solve seriously important problems in the world right now. So many companies are not getting the funding, and so many problems are going unsolved. And I think that's where the real rub is for me, and I love seeing founders that get there with so little capital.
So Henry, you guys work on deeper tech, so I guess it requires a bit more capital, but you've seen a lot of companies. So what surprised some of the founders of the companies when working with you and working with Shenzhen? What are the most surprised?
Well, I think initially for a lot of the deep tech guys, right, they try to do it hard work, they never recognize how expensive it is. Right? A lot of them probably never step into it. So that's usually where our team step in to actually educate them a bit. But I think for a lot of deep tech guys, some other advantage that they have is that because they're trying to solve fairly interesting problem that right now there's actually no other technology available to them. So number one, they could oftentimes draw on government funding, right? So NSF or from the different government organizations that could actually help them survive a bit. And number two, they will try, especially also we also advise them to do so, is that we focus pretty much only on B2B. So we try to ask the portfolio company what's their prototype talk to a lot more customers. Talk to the customer, get a bunch of LOI, get some of the potential contract in place, and then you go raise some money. Right? So at least you get some validation first.
So I think we have still a few minutes, so I'll ask you, shortly turn to you if you have any questions to ask to the panel, but I'll just continue with one more. Maybe in terms of where do you see this kind of Greater Bay Area going? Like, is it really integrating? Is there any relevance getting together like Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Macau, Zhuhai? How does that work for you? Maybe Dave, if you want to start.
Yeah, so I actually write a weekly column for Forbes called This Week in China Tech, and I talk a lot about this because the promise is really great. I think anyone that lives here is pumped about this, but it's not there. Like, clearly it's not there. I mean, you guys know, you guys live in Hong Kong, work in Shenzhen, like we live in Hong Kong, offices in Guangzhou. There's very little cross-border collaboration, like pretty much like Jan and you guys, right? Like, very few people run the borders all day long and decide to cross over, and I think we're all hoping that the new bullet trains are going to make it a no-brainer now, where there's no more excuses of, hey, like, it's literally 15 minutes, like, get on the damn train, right? And I think now it's still, unfortunately, a little bit of work, and I'm more excited about this to see if we can actually bring talent in, because I still think that, you guys have been here for a long time too, but it's still crazy to me how complicated it seems for people to take that first trip and to come here.
So to even just come have a look at the ecosystem.
All the time. Like, I actually have a guy in as a kid. He's in here from Berlin, and I have this thing like the Beta Bay China Challenge, which I tell people, like, you buy a ticket to China right this second when I'm in this town, I'll take care of everything when you get here. And it's funny, like, people don't come. And it's amazing that people, you guys all are here, but the vast majority of people are still not making that first trip, even though everyone clearly knows, and all the media tells you, obviously you have to be here.
Let's do a quick show of hands. Like, who has visited Shenzhen? Raise your hand. Not bad.
No, who lives here? Other raise your hands? Okay, so who doesn't live here that's been to Shenzhen? Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, interesting. So Duncan, you're a bit of a YouTube star because you went the Wired documentary. About 2 million viewers now. Have you seen a change in perception around Shenzhen, and do you see also some of that integration happening of the Greater Bay Area?
Yeah, yes and no. So, it changes the crazy. Like, I first came to Shenzhen in 2005. I honestly don't know where I was. I know Shenzhen. I remember it very clearly. It was like dusty roads. It was like carts. It was like machine shops at like open face, and like I know it wasn't that far from the border, but I have no clue where that was because it's changed so much since then. What I find amazing about Shenzhen now is there's just so much energy there. Like, you talk to people who are coming to this area and they're like, why do you live in Hong Kong? Like, Shenzhen's much better. And it's not there yet, but it is accelerating at an incredible pace. Every time I go there, like out into the social area, because it's probably now once every 2 weeks, once a month, I see something new. Here you don't get that. Here I've got the same old kind of Hong Kong. It's familiar. It feels kind of, historic and it's got so much kind of culture there. Shenzhen is just this bustling, innovative, crazy LED mess, which is exciting to me. And I think for Chinese people, it's super exciting to be there.
Yeah. So in that case, is there a feeling that we're getting left behind here in Hong Kong, Duncan?
So if you think about what the future is, which is China,
yeah,
like they don't look at, oh wow, I want to go to Hong Kong. They're like, I want to go to Shenzhen. And why would they come here?
I think the other way around, right? Like, I mean, I always say, like, I think we set offices in Shenzhen, we shut it down, and we opened in Guangzhou because if you're a foreign founder and you're not in a factory in Shenzhen, you're not really building a business. Like, the business is happening here. Now, if you have Chinese customers, that might be different. Not that you can be working on things, but I mean, my team is working with the VPN bullshit every single day. It's a fucking nightmare. Because, like, literally,
That's a technical term.
But I think that's where I'm seeing the Greater Bay potential promise. Like, when is it seamless? Like, that's what I'm really hoping happens.
Seamless. Henry, what's your feeling? I mean, you travel around. Do you see Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Greater Bay Area? Because it's a very, very hot topic now.
It's a very sexy term.
Yeah.
It's not happening yet, right? I think Hong Kong, a lot of Hong Kong people to a certain extent do have a perception of China's backward, or maybe for political reason or whatnot, they don't want to accept the fact that it actually has been very, very different.
Yeah.
And both of you are right. I mean, Shenzhen has changed a lot, right? Not just even how the government has built the city, but if you look at Tencent, Huawei, etc. I mean, they are leading a lot of the latest technology advancement in the world, right? And they will only be getting better and better. Right? So yeah.
So Ben, how about your views? Are you going to stay in Shenzhen, or are you going to move to Hong Kong anytime soon?
I'm actually kind of partly relocated toward Europe and the US these days for all the topics we're working on at HAX around the startup exits, which is kind of an important topic as well. I don't see the integration happening yet. I feel that when there's a train, probably that will help with logistics. But if you look at even the investment scene in Hong Kong, it's very immature. There's some tech investors, not many, but most of the investment money is used to traditional industries, and they're very much behind in terms of maturity to mainland investors. So I don't see that happening quite yet.
Okay.
Well, let me talk about investor, right? Investor in Hong Kong, I guess we have been, all of us broader investor, right, have been, to be honest, we're quite spoiled, right? There's so many pre-IPO deals come to family offices. They just get on it, sign a ticket, and then got a pop, right? So they have been so spoiled with very great real estate
industry.
Yeah, really great opportunity in real estate. When they look at early stage companies, it's so risky, it's a long time, chance of success is so low. Why take the risk?
Yeah, that's right. Why take the risk? We are running out of time. But does anybody have any comments or questions for our panel members, our distinguished panel members? You could, but why yell when you can use a microphone?
Short question, short answers.
Short questions. Name, company.
Lucas.
From?
Doris Dev.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about where your portfolio issues are failing? Just talk about that. Why they're failing.
Why they fail?
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Good question. Thanks, Lucas.
Number one failure in hardware. Anyone guess what it is? Founders falling out. That's it. It's always 90% of our failures are basically a conflict between two founders. It's amazing. So make sure your mission and your passion is aligned with any co-founders you have before you get into business with them. Because a year and a half in Shenzhen going through all the troubles of manufacturing will make you fall out.
What's the one?
It's actually interesting. We have none of that actually. I think it's actually number one statistic across all startups. Though I think it is founder breakups is the number one. For us, is that teams fundamentally don't want to believe in the old economy realities. They want to take a software mentality and they want to challenge something to a point where it's going to break. And that's where we can't force a founder to do something they don't believe in, right? We can say, that's a wall. Here's how the old economy works. This is what's going to happen. And they're like, yeah, but I'm going to try. And then in hardware, you don't get many chances. That's the problem.
Okay. Henry?
I think a lot of the founders, they never realize that for their idea, they actually need a hardware to begin with, right? The number one question we ask all the founders is, do you really need to use a hardware? If you can do it without hardware, you should not be a hardware startup. And if you're absolutely sure, you shouldn't do it.
Okay.
Then add something, that's kind of specific to hardware, that the teams that don't spend enough time on the ground to actually take care of manufacturing and being very close contact with the suppliers and controlling the supply chain tend to have a lot of trouble. But that's probably what would have. Any other additional
good point.
Secondary trouble?
We are out of time. However, as always, I always like to finish the panel discussions with a buzzword. So when we leave here tonight, after we've been drinking lots of wine and beer, what should people remember to do? Duncan, buzzword bingo. Now, give me a buzzword, and also, are you kind of optimistic about GBA? Because GBA is an incredibly hot topic. I get people calling me from all over the world saying, Anson, tell me about GBA. So are you optimistic that we're going to see this amazing Greater Bay Area development?
I really hope so. I mean, I love Hong Kong personally. I think it's got a huge amount to offer. I just hope that what we see is a bunch of Chinese people getting really excited about coming here and people here accepting them.
Good point. That's right. We want them to shop and enjoy Hong Kong, Asia's world city, of course. Brinc, Mr. Bay McLaughlin, buzzword bingo. By the way, you didn't give me a buzzword.
Yeah.
Come on, give me a buzzword.
Just anything that's not blockchain.
I'll take that one. Anything. Good one. Bay.
Yeah, I guess for me it's living in beta, that's my personal thing. But I think the Greater Bay Area, for me, like I'm not going to touch this whole China integration conversation.
Okay.
But I
Well,
really...
you wouldn't because you're American. Yeah?
That was so good. Leading conversation. No, for me, I really think Hong Kong has more of a role to play than ever before. And I think for a while there, I was getting worried that there was less and less role in the last 5 years. I think it's actually on a big uptick, and I think that the Greater Bay without Hong Kong would just be China.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a real opportunity for the rest of the world. Like, this is the Western membrane. And I don't know about you guys, like we do business in all those cities, and it's still China. It might be a cooler, better, faster, neater, maker version, but it's China.
Absolutely. Personally, I'm very excited about the Greater Bay Area. One thing I was going to mention to everybody, we're launching a new GBA survey with HSBC, with the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce. So before you get any free beer or wine, you're going to have to finish the GBA survey for me, perhaps, maybe. Buzzword. What about the buzzword bingo? Come on, say something profound. And it can't be Trump. Don't say Trump.
You give me all the worst suggestions. I'm gonna go.
Come on, buzzword bingo.
This sucks. Does that count?
No, that doesn't count. Come on.
I'm gonna say data.
Excuse me, that's really profound. Henry, I'm sure you can do a better job than
I'm
Beige.
actually very consistent. I would say deep tech in the sense that what I want to encourage the Hong Kong academics, right, the Hong Kong students to spend more time to do underlying research, right? I think Hong Kong is a great university, great system, and it's just a matter of believing that when you have a good technology, you can turn that into a dream.
And Henry, it's a good point about R&D and research, because quite frankly, Hong Kong is behind the curve, right? We are, 0.75%? And Carrie Lam, as our chief executive, I'm a huge supporter of Carrie, and I think she's going to double that to 1.5%. I think it's tough, right? But we've got to do that, because in Shenzhen, what's Ben? What's the R&D spend in Shenzhen? Because it's definitely more.
In China,
It's around 4, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's around 4%. I think it's around 4%. Korea, and some of these other markets, we have got to get our act together. And I agree with you, Henry. We've got to really drive R&D. Benjamin, buzzword.
I have one. I have more time.
Come on, give it to me.
So actually, to kind of echo a bit what Duncan said, saying no blockchain, I would say decentralization. And
Decentralized. That's blockchain.
Just to make kind of an echo of what was said, but it's about decentralized resources for startups. It's pretty clear here on the panel that Shenzhen plays a huge role for a hardware company wherever they're from. And about half of the HAX portfolio comes from North America, a quarter from Europe, a quarter from Asia. And they do their R&D wherever they're from. They do their fast prototyping and the manufacturing in China because it's so much faster and all the skills are there. But then the customers could be anywhere. The funding they get could be anywhere as well. So it's really about founders realizing that they need to get a lot of stamps on their passport. They need to go to find the resources where they are. So that's this idea of a decentralized company.
So decentralization.
I was just spinning of that term while I did.